All right, everyone, we have breaking news regarding Loretta Lynch. You know, the Obama AG who was put into place and then apparently had some dirty dealings, allegedly, with the Clintons. She's going to be probed by the Senate as part of the general looking into the last election because everyone's so fucking surprised about the result, other than like half a dozen people that were expecting what would happen. Everyone else was astonished, including, I think, some of Trump's fans. They were kind of demoralized towards the end, started believing the skewed polls. And so people are trying to wrap their heads around what happened. And that knife cuts both ways. Those people that want to look into more Russia with Trump, and they will fail, I predict, in doing so. Those people are opening themselves up because the Republicans control the House and Senate to really attacks on Lynch, Clinton, and others. And they're not undeserved, I think, especially in Lynch's case. There was a fairly clear miscarriage of justice, wherein Miss Lynch, who is supposed to be a nonpartisan figure in her dealings, apparently did pressure James Comey with regards to the Clinton investigation. Since we know that that happened, according to James Comey, who has been declared the Messiah by the Democrats, they trust everything he says. If he says he's got a memo detailing the fact that Trump may or may not have done some unethical stuff with regards to the Flynn investigation, if you're going to assume that he's telling the truth about that, why not about Lynch? And right on the stand in front of the American people in an open hearing said, yeah, Loretta Lynch was pressuring me. It was all sorts of screwy. I was very uncomfortable with the situation. Whoops, it looks like the Democrats got exactly what they wanted, which is for Comey to tell all. And now, of course, the Senate, which is run by Republicans, can proceed to look into her dealings. Now, what will happen? What will happen to Lynch? Will this lead to a smoking gun, yes, indeed, Clinton did things that were illegal sort of moment? What will the Senate do? Here's my prediction. Lynch will go up in front of the Senate. She will deny that any of this happened. Because there's no actual recording of it, that calls Comey into question. And then the Republicans choose, do we want to deflect off of Comey, who also said things about Trump, or do we want to pursue Loretta Lynch? I think they'll do the former. I think they want to lay the issue to rest for strategic reasons. That is that I'm predicting that there will be no smoking gun with Clinton. Trump has backed off doing anything about her, and well, that may itself be a miscarriage of justice. Those of us who bothered to study what was going on realize that Clinton broke the law. We realize that that happened and that the FBI simply did not charge her because it felt that it didn't want to drag someone who was campaigning for the presidency. They can say, oh, there wasn't enough evidence. We wouldn't be able to prove it. Bullcrap. You probably would have been. The real issue is, do you want to potentially start a civil war by attempting to imprison a presidential candidate, drag her off the campaign trail so that the Democrats have something to complain about? That is, the FBI is not supposed to do this, but in reality, in a purely pragmatic sense, the FBI, the DOJ, all of these groups have to weigh pragmatism in their decision making. If they think that pursuing a case is going to start absolute fucking chaos in the country, they're not going to pursue the case. Now that the election is over, they can go after Lynch. They can hope that maybe, on the off chance, she reveals something that leads to Podesta, that leads to Hillary Clinton, that leads to somebody else. It'd probably be some stooge within the DNC, some fall boy or something like that. They can hope that, but they're not going to pursue it too deep. They'll call her up for questioning, she'll deny everything, and they'll probably let it go at that. They're also, I believe, talking to Podesta at some point in the near future, if I remember correctly. I think I saw a clipping from an article on that, but I'm not exactly sure. It could have been Photoshop for all I fucking know. It could have been just clickbait. But having Lynch go up in front of this probe, at the very least, it will solve one problem, which is that a hell of a lot of Trump's core fans really, really want to throw somebody against the wall and then into a jail cell over the fairly dishonest election dealings of the Clinton campaign. We've got it all there in black and white in email form. We've already got all the evidence we could possibly ever want. Yes, indeed, Clinton is full of crap. Her campaign manager's full of crap. The AG probably, at the very least, leaned on Comey to end the investigation in a roundabout sense. We know all this happened. There was a reason that she lost. Part of it was the fact that there was transparency in her campaign. Involuntary transparency, of course. But will Lynch actually, is she going to get dragged off to a jail cell? Yeah, no, probably not. It's like with Clinton. A lot of very optimistic people were very, very happy as the investigation continued, because they assumed, yeah, Clinton, she's going to be in a jail cell, and if Trump wins, which looked increasingly likely to some people's minds at that point, oh, she'll be off in a jail cell anyway, regardless of the outcome. And then, of course, Comey says, yeah, she broke the law, she was dishonest, she should have known better, she's fucking inept, but we're not going to charge her, which was a total deflection. What you have with Lynch, then, is that apparently she was involved with pressuring Comey to do that in the first place. Now, would Comey have pursued it in a vacuum if Lynch hadn't stepped in? Probably still not. You probably would have gotten the same outcome. Trying to blame that on Loretta Lynch I don't think would work. Comey made his own decision there. He had to have known that he could easily stand up to Loretta Lynch. At the time, he would have had the support of at least a small number of people who very much mattered in that situation. He could have come before, he could have talked to some members of the Senate and said, look, the Attorney General's trying to pressure me to sort of downplay this investigation. I feel totally uncomfortable with this. I don't know what's going on. I need some allies right now to really back me up and get some elements of this out to the public. Because, if all you have is layer after layer of FBI secrecy, I'm going to get fucked here. And he could have done that. He chose, of course, not to, but that's because he was going to let the case go anyway. You think that they were actually going to continue an investigation into a presidential candidate? Of course not. And now it will be seen as sour grapes by a lot of people in the country if they were to headhunt after Loretta Lynch, even if they know that she did wrong. And there's great reason to believe that she did. It would be dumb, almost, from the standpoint of strategy, to actually pursue it too deeply. What you do is drag her up before the Senate, make her uncomfortable, get her to maybe spit out the names of a couple low-level staffers, and you leave it at that. And that may sound regrettable, but from a strategic standpoint, there's not a whole lot else you can do. You are talking about attempting to imprison a former First Lady / presidential candidate / senator / Secretary of State and or the former AG of the United States. That's not something to be taken lightly. I may think that it'd be a great idea to throw these people in prison. I do think that that would be wonderful. It'd be wonderful to make an example of some corrupt official like Loretta Lynch or John Podesta, or somebody, a presidential candidate like Hillary Clinton. But don't hold your breath. It's like a 1 in 1,000 chance that will actually happen. Loretta Lynch, maybe a little bit higher a chance she actually faces some sort of repercussions. But if anything, it would probably be a slap on the wrist. It would be like when Comey comes out and announces the end of the Clinton server investigation, says, yes, what they'll say is, Lynch should have known better. It was inappropriate. It was perhaps dubious or unethical. But there's nothing that we can do about it because for some odd reason, despite the fact that every phone call and email in this country is constantly collected by the NSA, somehow we're unable to access this specific information. That's what'll happen in all likelihood. So don't hold your breath waiting for Loretta Lynch to go and be with Bernie Madoff or somebody like that in a federal prison, because it's probably not going to happen. Hey, hate to burst your bubble. It's probably not going to happen. It's a little bit of a cock tease for those on the right. It's a cock tease for those people who really want to put the establishment to bed in a jail cell. That's, though, all it is, in all likelihood. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she ends up getting thrown into prison, but don't expect it to lead to Clinton. That'll never happen. She'll be totally free the whole time. Probably wouldn't lead to Podesta. Probably some lower down manager within the Attorney General's office would take the fall even for Lynch. Let alone for Hillary Clinton. Yeah, there are plenty of people who will fall on their swords for her. There are plenty of people that they would manufacture evidence to incriminate themselves for her. So don't expect, you're never going to get a Clinton into prison. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they take billions of dollars from Russia and sell them weapons-grade uranium. It doesn't matter if they get millions from some tin horn regime in the Middle East. It doesn't matter if they, in all likelihood, have had people assassinated. Doesn't matter what they do. They're not gonna face any justice, any repercussions for that. And then, meanwhile, they're very, very good. The one strategy coming from the left that they're actually good at carrying through with is infiltrating some movement for truth, and then injecting a bunch of bullshit conspiracy theories into it to get people distracted. Like I suspect that they did with Pizzagate. The Pizzagate thing was a distraction from a very, very real scandal that could have had wide-reaching implications for the entire Democratic Party, as well as a significant proportion of their donor base. Could have put them all in prison. So what do? They get the public discourse of everyone that's already looking for a reason not to like them onto a conspiracy theory, whereby there is merely circumstantial evidence of possible wrongdoing that nobody can possibly prove in a legal sense. They get everybody talking about that, and they flaunt it. They have a great time doing this sort of thing. It's like with 9/11. Those who wanted to see the unredacted version of the 9/11 report were drowned out by people who were rambling about nanothermite. This wasn't a coincidence when this happened. It's a straight psyop tactic. It comes straight from the government to try to maintain the status quo in their diplomatic foreign relations. It's all about money and worldwide power and the continued march of globalism. That's all it's about. That's all they want. Why do you fucking think we invaded Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11? Had nothing to do with Osama bin Laden or any of that nonsense. And Loretta Lynch is about as likely to be put into prison as someone like John Podesta, which is to say not likely. It's possible. The possibility's there. You can't discount the 1 in 1,000 chance, but what do you expect to happen? What's Lynch going to say when she gets up in front of the Senate? Is she going to sit there and admit, oh yeah, I talked to Bill Clinton about the case and gave him assurances, and I told Comey back the fuck off because Clinton gave me money, or something like that? You think that she's going to sit there and admit to all these things? That pie-in-the-sky scenario is almost certain not to actually occur. If it did, I would be extremely surprised. I'd be extremely pleased. I'd say, wow, this is going to be a good month of video making. I'm not going to have anything else to talk about the whole friggin' time because everyone will be fixated on this crap. But it's probably not going to happen. It's a wild goose chase trying to go after these people. They've got too many connections within government, especially when, in honesty, Trump hasn't properly purged all the Obama-era appointees to many of these positions. So he's not going to have full cooperation any more than the Senate Republicans would in trying to investigate what the hell's going on. And there are a lot of people, and here's where the deep state concept comes in, there are a lot of people who would rather let someone that they know is dishonest go than to shake up the status quo because it's so lucrative. For all the corporations, for all the multinational banks, for a lot of people in Congress. Who do you think gives them money when they're running for re-election? Who funds John McCain? Is it the average retiree in Arizona that gave him $100? Or is it Raytheon or something like that? They're all in bed with the same people. They're not going to headhunt after Loretta Lynch. She's just one of them. One of the boys' club. Now, a black woman in the old white males, supposedly an impossible position to ever be filled by a minority. And she's got it twice over. And that'll help shield her from repercussions as well. Because then, you know what the Democrats would do? If Loretta Lynch actually got dragged in and said something, they took it as incriminating. And they continued, and they said, well, we're going to call her back in a few times. In the meantime, she might have to sit in a cell because we think something fishy's going on here. We're going to get to the bottom of it. You know what the DNC would say? All of these old white males are just cut up about the fact that a black woman held that position. They're sad that Obama was president, that the Democrats won those elections, and that they had to deal with Loretta Lynch. She's a power woman and they just can't handle it, so they decided to be bigots or something like that. And a lot of people would eat that swill up. It can be blatantly false. There's a hell of a lot of blatantly false material right now circulating in the corporate media. And there are a lot of people who just take it for granted. Oh, it came from CNN, it must be true. NBC said it, it must be true. Fox News said it, oh, well then it's the word of God himself. And the white Christian Jesus. Or something like that. It's nuts. Now, Loretta Lynch, I do not speculate, will actually face any justice for what are plausible and likely missteps, which could carry significant penalties if they actually did. But we'll wait to see. I mean, I'll hold back. And maybe I'm wrong. I'd be surprised, pleasantly, but I think I'm not going to be wrong. Just like with the Clinton investigation, people jumping down my throat saying, oh, she'll face the music this time. Trump's going to nail her to the wall. He's going to throw her in prison. Is she in prison 6 months later? Or is she still wandering out in the woods? No, she came out of the woods after subsisting on roots and grubs for a while. Tip off to the DPRK News Twitter for making a joke about that. Now, she went out into the woods, did some soul searching as though she would find anything, and then she comes out and says, oh, I'm going to lead the resistance. I'm an old woman with 90s era ideas, but somehow all these young, like, teenagers within the Democratic Party are going to flock to me. Now, they're all listening to Bernie still. She's still got the same friggin' problem. She's got a bunch of people that are older than her listening to her about how the Republicans want to kill them off, take away their pensions, take away their health care, and destroy them. And so she gets a little crowd of people riled up. And then they break their hips when they get riled up. That's the average Clinton crowd. There's the problem. So in a way, I'm not too worried about like the Clintonians because they're powerless. They don't have a standard bearer right now. They don't even have their leader is Hillary Clinton. You saw how well that worked in the last election. Supposedly unbeatable against the weakest Republican candidate in 100 years. Still loses handily. I'm not too worried about that. If she wants to go siphon Middle Eastern money or whatever, deal with China, she's going to do that anyway. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. It's just sort of the way DC works. Yeah, how's big government working out for you? That's about all. Peace out.